Wiltshire.
BBC Radio Wiltshire Breakfast.
With Ben Prater. BBC Radio Wiltshire.
Speaking to that Wiltshire barbecuing champ before 8, but first... If you're going to speak about a Wiltshire horror film producer, make sure you've got the very best scary laugh sound effects. We're talking about Mark Kenna, who's already had success with his movie Sacrilege. You might remember was in cinemas last year. Well, he's really excited about this special event that's been in the offing for a while now in London on Friday as they try to get more funding for movie number 2.
We've secured Twickenham Film Studios. They're legends in the industry, right? They've just finished all the sound on Top Gun. They won an Oscar for Bohemian Rhapsody, and they're doing the same for our movie and the picture. So, I've worked with them back in the early days on Human Traffic, which was a Welsh movie that did really, really well, Alien versus Predators. And then they shot, the Italian Job there and, American Wealth in London, right? So it's got real history. So we thought, okay, let's do an investor event at Twickenham Studios. They are a backbone studio. We're moving up in the game. And we want to take people from the Southwest up to the world famous Twickenham Film Studios for a tour. They can listen to some content and then a brief. I promise it will be brief, Ben, because I can talk. 20-minute, and then drinks on the terrace and chew the fat and talk about films and how they can be involved. And it would be amazing, to get more people in the Southwest involved and aware of what we're trying to do here, because it's not an easy route.
No.
We're trying to take on the bigger companies, right?
Yeah, I admire the graph that you and others like you have got to show. You're well up the greasy pole film-wise, but still, you really have to graph, don't you, to keep on climbing?
It is, and especially with the last couple of years, it's affected everybody, right? And what we're feeling is there is money out there. People being careful with it, but they want an experience. They want something that they can, talk about, that they can enjoy, and because material things and stuff, yeah, great. But it's actually, our family, our friends, the people we work with. And actually, we know so many people in the industry who are not in the industry who want to be a part of it. This is kind of like an independent window into kind of how the big boys do it on a smaller scale, but with big ambition. Sacrilege was released in 40 countries. We've released in the UK on Sky and Amazon, and we released in the cinema across Cineworld, right? So no independent project does that. So we really feel like we've got a great network. We've built our pipeline with badbloodfilms, and people can now jump in and join us and have some fun. And I think we all need some fun, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. When might we see the Ripper's Ghost on the big billboards then? How long are you looking at?
When we say, right, we've got enough money, let's go out and shoot the movie, probably got 6 months before the movie is then in the can and ready to say, okay, let's take it to Cannes, let's take it to the American film market, let's try and sell this movie. And it's exciting. So yeah, next year, 2023, Ripper's Ghost on the screen. Grab your pillows, take your girlfriends or boyfriends or partners, and have 2 hours of fun.
Yeah, Mark Kenna, a Swindon film producer there, wants to get even bigger up that movie making pole even further. Done amazingly well already to get so many projects off the ground, but this is the big one that he's got his eyes on. And if you love a horror movie, well, there you go. The offer's there to get investing now in case it does make it into a huge commercial success. You could win the fruits of the labour from that. Ching ching, very nice. The Ripper's Ghost, inspired, by the way, by events in Whitechapel whenever it was back in the day, but with a modern take and a kind of modern domestic setting. Sounds good, intriguing. And I'm not a horror fan, I've got to say. Thus the 2 or 3 cushions in front of my eyes. But I'll be a big boy and not a pussycat and watch that one, because it's going to be a Wiltshire film. You can come out of the sofa, by the way, now. There you go. We don't shortchange you on the scary laugh when it comes to talking about Wiltshire horror movies. No. A Wiltshire film producer is trying to raise a few quid to make one of those. Mark Kenna's already had some success, you might know, with his film Sacrilege, which was in cinemas last year. Now, he's been telling me about the plans for the next step, the one that's going to propel him, he reckons, and others, and maybe you if you invest, into the big game. It's called The Ripper's Ghost.
This is definitely a notch up from Sacrilege.
All right, Sacrilege, 2 pillows then.
That was a 15, this is probably an 18, and it's based around the legend that is Jack the Ripper, so a notorious serial killer. We're really, really excited about this project.
So you've taken that real life element and putting your own touch on it.
Yeah, it's a supernatural horror in the vein of like Invisible Man, Sinister, Nightmare on Elm Street. So trying to bring back that old school sort of horror feel, and I'm sure the younger people would want to watch it, even though they're not 18. But it's a supernatural horror because supernaturals do really, really well. Logline is something this evil never dies, right? So it's about a young woman and her family, and they're fighting for their lives when they unleash this murderous spirit of Jack the Ripper. So it's kind of a modern day setting. You see what Jack the Ripper did, and that's where we start in the movie. Filmed in Bristol and around the southwest, of course, because we're very passionate about that. But then, it opens up into sort of modern day. You meet Kitty and her family. She's trying to sort of get over the recent decease of her father. So something we all kind of relate to. The miss of a loved one, single parent family, trying to survive. And she has this kind of interest, this inherent interest in Jack the Ripper and serial killers. She's still studying at college, and they get gifted this chest. And they, of course, her mum kind of knows but hasn't told her. The Gran knows everything. Who we love, like people like Mira Morgaz and stuff like that. So we're looking at a decent cast for this one, a decent budget.
And what about the price of doing something like this? Per minute of what goes on to the screen, how expensive does it get?
Well, the budget for Sacrilege was what, 300 grand, and you can make films for 50 grand, but to actually do it properly and get an international release and compete with, the Blumhouses and not necessarily the Mavericks, the Top Guns, but, to make a decent splash like It Follows, The Babadook, The Descent, Insidious, these kind of films are around the 1 million mark. And they've made, anywhere between 20 million and 50 million. Maybe even 150 million for Sidious and the Saw franchise. So, there's good money to be made. So we need to be in that bracket. So we're looking at a $2 million US project. And we've got 50% of that in place already. So, over 600,000. So we're looking for additional money and people to get involved, companies and people in the Southwest who can kind of get involved with that.
Swindon film producer Mark Kenna on his plans for The Ripper's Ghost. More from him later. Importantly, you can come out from behind the sofa now. I said you can come out from behind the sofa. Come on, you big pussycat.
The sound of Wiltshire.
BBC Radio Wiltshire Breakfast.
With Ben Prater. BBC